What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. We're coming with the fourth installment of our mid-season team review series. We're going to take a look at two teams that are still in the mix for champs, and one has made a roster change. One has kind of limitations on maybe making a roster change. And like our last video, I think these are two teams that are heading in sort of different directions. So we're talking about Vegas and LAG. We're going to start with Vegas, talk a little bit about the team change they just made, talk a little bit about their journey to get here and what they need to work on if they want to qualify for champs. All right, as always, we start off these videos with a look at the standings. So we're talking about LAG and Vegas today. LAG is sitting at 70 points, so they're 40 off of the Minnesota Rocker. And Vegas are only 90 points total, but that puts them 10 away from Minnesota. So Vegas is very much within striking distance of getting the 8th spot. LAG's got a little bit more work to do. So the old Paris Legion franchise was pretty much the joke of the league. Every year, they were always like the 11th or 12th best team, and were for the most part, it's very uncompetitive or extremely uncompetitive, all except maybe like 1 or 2 weeks over those last 3 years. But coming into this season, they've decided to move the team to Las Vegas, and they picked up Clayster to join Temp, and they start off with Prolute and TJ on the roster, and they've had some success, especially at LAN. They have 2 top 6 placings this year, and they made a number of roster changes throughout the year. After Major 2, they did go ahead and let go of Prolute and pick up 2 Real. And then recently, as of a couple days ago, they've actually dropped 2 Real and picked up Standy. Kind of can understand what they're sort of thinking over the course of those changes. They've been trying to find sort of upgrades at the sub level, and they've now kind of rested on TJ Halley, who's a very good search player and kind of a middle to below road respawn player, and then Standy, who this year has been a very good respawn player, a little bit slow in terms of subs, but hasn't been that good in search, so maybe they can find some balance there. That's really been Vegas' sort of problem. They've been a very good search team all season. 21-11 with their record would make them, I believe, either second or third best search team in the league. 8-1 on Fortress. They're not getting messed with on that map, although as we've talked about in some of the videos already, this map may be going somewhere, so they're going to have to get good at Expo, but they're solid at a bunch of other maps. The CLO 6-4, pretty good. Hotel 3-2, and they played a lot of Mercado. Where this Vegas team is running into a lot of trouble this year is in the respawn game modes. 8-27 hardpoint is not good, although they've started to turn that record around recently. We'll take a look at the recent results over the last couple stages. The one thing I want to highlight in the biggest area of opportunity for this team right now is control. They are the worst at this game mode. They have really struggled all season. They can't figure out a CLO. They've got 1 Fortress win. It looked like maybe at the beginning of the stage, they turned a corner on hotel control, but then that didn't really pan out. So not a lot of optimism in that game mode for Vegas. It's really limiting their ceiling. They're getting into a bunch of series where it's 1-1 heading the third map. But the problem is that at that point, because they can't win a control, they have to win map 4 and map 5, and they've struggled at times to do that. So I think they really need to find a way to improve in this game mode. If they do, I could see them grinding out a lot of series because they're not the best hardpoint team on planet Earth, although we'll see with the Standy move. But they are a good search team, and so if you can grab that third map, grab that second map, you can nuzzle your way to a lot more victories this season. And to make it even more clear, like they were not bad at hardpoint this stage. Only map they had a losing record on was Hydro, but they were pretty automatic on Mercado. 2-2 in Hotel, 2-2 in Embassy. So solid records there. The search was good as well. But the 1-7, that first Hotel control, I believe was the one they won. The split, like that's just not going to cut it. So they need to get better at that game mode. And again, you can see what I mean when you look at these game win percentages. Like you're just feeling good if you can get to game 5. But this is a big problem. And you're not winning a lot of these game 4s. You're winning less than 50%. So it is very tough. Just to wrap up my thoughts on sort of team front standing, and we'll take a look at player stats, close things out with Vegas. I think from a goal standpoint, their goal is to be competitive this year. And heading into the back end of the season, they're still in the hunt for a playoff champ spot. So you got to say job well done on that. They're a relevant franchise. I think when you go to events, the team that always seems to get like the second, the third, the fourth most shares in an event is Vegas. I think a lot of people want to see this team succeed. So I got to give credit to Donnie and Clay and TJ. That core 3 has figured out how to bring somewhat of a winning culture to this team. They still got a lot of work to do. They're no longer at the basement of the CDL. They're relevant. They're in the mix. And I'm excited to see if they can turn around. But let's take a look at some player stats for a second. So I think to kind of wrap things up with each team, we've talked about is anyone sort of an MVP All-Star Rookie of the Year candidate. No rookies on this team this year. So our real only options are MVP All-Star. I don't think they have an MVP candidate on this team, but I think Temp has played good enough to be in the All-Star conversation. He's above a 1 in pretty much every game mode, even the control where they're struggling. He's been slaying well, and look, I know Donnie's play style is interesting. He has the least amount of hill time on his team as an AR, which is interesting. His impact in search is actually not too bad with the first bloods, amount of kills per round. But Don's obviously got the play style that sometimes people criticize. I do think that he is playing good enough to be in the All-Star conversation, but I'm curious if it's what happens like with last year where, you know, the metrics were there and then sort of the media, the actual voters themselves, people that vote for the award weren't really fans of all that. So I think Don's played good enough to be at that level, but you know, it remains to be seen. I think another performance I want to call out, people have been really critical about TJ, but I just want us to be really clear about how he's playing right now. Overall this year, the search numbers are really, really good. A 1.14 puts him up in the elite search players. 46 first blood's really good as well. But you see the respawn numbers of 0.8 overall, and control is not good. And then if I scroll up here, 0.92 and hardpoint is not good. But that being said, he's actually been playing better as of late. So we take a look at stage 3, major 3 stats only. 0.95 in hardpoint, 109 in search, and a 0.75 in control is not that good. I will say on the hardpoint side, it is a little bit of an improvement from where he was. And actually, if we even dive further when we get to LAN, he actually was playing pretty good at the LAN, a 104 in hardpoint at that event, 106 in search, and still struggling in control. So I think people are a lot more critical on TJ, and I've always been critical on TJ in terms of his consistency, at least a lot on the flank. But I think he's been a little bit better this year. Just need to see him round out his respawn game, and bringing in Standy will probably help with that. Although Eli is not a fast player when it comes to hardpoint, and so we'll see how that fits with their overall system. But you know, he can slay well in hardpoint. He can get his kills, stay alive. So we'll see if that maybe brings out the best in TJ, sort of probably having to kind of gap fill in that situation. So that's Vegas. Curious to see how they do coming into the stretch here. Now, their schedule is very tricky. They do have to play Toronto, Florida, Boston, London, and LAG in this stage. And you would think on the head of things that that's a fairly easy schedule. Toronto and Boston are probably L's. Florida, London, and LAG should be W's, but this Vegas team kind of plays up and down to people, so you never know. And then the tough thing is their major 5 schedule: Optic, New York, FaZe, Rocker, and Seattle, which on the surface, Optic and FaZe and Seattle are going to be really tricky W's. New York too. And then this Rocker match could be an eliminator match. Second to last league match of the season is a massive 20-point match for both teams since Rocker's in 8th and Vegas is in 9th. So we'll see how things shape up for that. That's Vegas. Let's move on to LAG. What is there really to say about this LAG team other than this season is playing out very similar to all of the other seasons at LAG. Once again, from a player development standpoint, they've made a lot of roster changes. And unlike last year where they were able to find some success in the middle of the season and win an event, this year they've not gotten close to that at all. They've really struggled to even make the weekends at tournaments. I don't think they have actually made the weekend in any tournament unless that top 8 placing they got in Major 2 was them playing on Saturday morning. But overall for this LAG team, they're completely lost right now. I will say they look more promising than they did with the first iteration of the team, which is to run back the Hook, Neptune, Spark trio from last year that did not qualify for champs. Somehow they thought that was a good idea to run back. They brought in Marquee B over from Toronto after they decided that, and after they got rid of Slasher and brought in Arcity. So Arcity's and Slasher switched spots on Atlanta FaZe, and they sucked at Major 1. They played a little bit better at Major 2, and they sucked again at Major 3 with like Marquee B having to sub in at one point. I don't know. It was all crazy, the Major 3 situation, but let's dive in more on the stats on this team, and I can kind of outline some of their struggles. So LG is a team that's gone through a couple roster changes, so we need to like contextualize sort of the first team and the second team. On the face of it, their stats are not that good. Hardpoint numbers are really bad. They actually were playing good on hardpoint in stage 2, and they fell off a cliff, I believe. In this stage, S&D's been and the control has been so it's not really good enough for them to be a good team. They haven't been at times the worst, but they're sort of trending in that direction right now. And it's kind of crazy. Like, you look at their stats from stage 2 when they first picked up the trio from the LG Academy team that played really good at the Raleigh Open. 9 and 6 hardpoint in that stage. 4 and 7 search, 2 and 6 control. So the search and the control wasn't good, but the hardpoint was decent. And then absolutely fell off a cliff this last stage. 2 and 11 a hardpoint, 6 and 5 in search. 5 and 2 in control is typical though. We'll give some respect to that number That is a good sign. 3-0 in Fortress, though. Again, I'll keep saying it. If Expos come in, you're going to need to get good at that map. But man, it's really surprising how bad this team has been a hard point down the stretch here. They need to figure that out. And I think part of the issue with LAG, to be honest, is they just have a weird AR duo. Between Assault and RCs, they don't really have a true flex player, and it kind of almost shows in the stats. Alex, this is just Major 3 stats, by the way. Alec with a 1, Assault with a 0.9. Neither player really getting a lot of hill time for the team. Somehow Joe Deceives has 74 seconds in hill, so that seems kind of messed up. And then we look at S&D. Assault's been great. He's been one of their best search players, although he's not a very active search player. Alec has really struggled in this game at a 0.76 so far in Major 3, or through Major 3 rather, is not very good. Then Alec has also struggled in control to 0.78. And Assault ball at a 138 is crazy. So there's some funkiness there. And I got to say, I love my guy, Alec. He's my boy. But at some point with this LAG team, they may need to make a decision here in the next few weeks or after this major, if they're still in contention, of potentially benching RCs. And that's kind of crazy to say, knowing Alec's history. He's a COD Champs winner. He was just on Atlanta FaZe last year. An integral part of their success in Cold War. But just hasn't played well through stretches of this year since the whole Optic rumor really has struggled since the middle of Major 2 and in this last stage. So he needs to figure it out and kind of get out of the slump. And I think the other thing too is, look, I thought in the front end, the sub duo was solid. They've also kind of really struggled in hardpoint, dropping 0.9 to 0.94. And we just highlighted Joe Deceive somehow. His over a minute hill time was one of his ARs having 30 seconds, which is just crazy. We take a look at the S&D. First off, Exceed with a 1.19 in search. This major is pretty good, and Joe around a 1 as well, so that's solid. But then, and then we take a look at the control numbers: a 0.98 and a 107. Engagements are good, deaths are good. So I think like the hard point issue, it just doesn't seem like fundamentally there's a lot going on there. And again, I wonder if it's a pacing with the ARs. I don't know why Joe's getting all the hell time, but something they really, really need to work on. All right, so let's wrap this up. Have they achieved their early season goals for LAG? No. It's honestly been a really tough season. They tried the trio, completely blew it up. Ook went off to Optic and they released him. They didn't even Optic didn't even buy him out. Like, he got him for free, so that's crazy. And then they have this team and they haven't had success, so no. They may not make champs. And on top of that, we will be remiss if we don't talk about the org issues. Like, this org has been completely blown up. It seems like the Kroenke family is moving on from the esports project. So a lot of uncertainty about this team. And even if they want to make a change, I don't even know if they can make a change. They just released their academy team. It doesn't seem like from a roster standpoint that they're trying to keep all of their esports teams together right now. So I don't think this team's gonna be able to buy someone out. Maybe they can sign a challengers player if they want to make a play. Maybe they call in Spark, but right now it's looking real tough for LAG on that front. And, we talk about awards, and there's not really a standout on this team so far this season. I mean, the only player I think that's maybe in some kind of conversation is Joe Deceives, but not really when you look at the stats. Overall so far this season, 0.93 in hardpoint, 103 in search, and a 0.92 in control is not close to what Scrappy's doing on the Rookie of the Year side. So I don't even think he's in the conversation right now. So I don't really know what this LAG team's going to do. They are, like I said, still in the mix. Points-wise, they're 40 points off. We could talk about their upcoming schedule just to clean things up here. Coming up in stage 4, they have Optic, Seattle, Rocker, Thieves, and Vegas. And I think this is a pretty tough schedule with those first 4 matches and then having to play Vegas. Like, I could see LAG only winning one of these. And I got to think, just like with Vegas, LAG is in a position where they need to make a deep winners run. They need to try and get 60, 70 points a split here, and that schedule's not going to do them any favors. And then for stage 5, they got FaZe, Florida, London, Seattle, and Toronto. So Florida and London might be out of it at this point. FaZe is going to be tough. New York's going to be tough. Toronto's going to be tough. A little bit maybe of an easier schedule, but I'll be honest with sort of the schedule and the way this LAG team is playing. My prediction is I think they're going to continue to fade the split. I think like a team like London might pass them. And I can honestly see LAG by the end of the split being the 11th or 12th spot and probably kind of looking towards the offseason a bit. And an offseason of uncertainty because, again, not sure what's going to happen with the org, in the spot, and for some of these players. So yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Teams heading in opposite directions. LAG, I think, is going to continue to struggle again. And Vegas, I think the benefit to Vegas is that they're going to get that new team feel Rocker are in questionable form right now, above them by about like 20 points in 8th. And so if Rocker continue to struggle, Vegas might be at some point during Major 4, you're tied or ahead of them in points, and it will set up a very interesting run as we head to Toronto for Major 5. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of this video. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. We got 2 more of these to get through, so be on the lookout for those in the next couple of days. And as always, guys, we'll see you on the next video.